Welcome to Golden Age Stories.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are opening up a file that feels...
Well, it feels heavy. And I don't just mean physically heavy, though the stack of biographies and archives we have on the desk is pretty substantial.
It's a mountain.
It is, emotionally heavy. We are looking at a figure who, for a massive chunk of the 20th century, felt like he was carved out of granite rather than, born of flesh and blood.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Duke. We're talking about John Wayne.
It is a massive topic. And I think for a lot of people listening, especially if you grew up in the 50s, 60s, or even the 70s, this isn't just about an actor.
No.
This is about a feeling. It's about Saturday afternoons at the cinema, the smell of popcorn, and a very specific idea of America.
That's a great way to put it, a feeling.
But what I love about the research we have today, all these sources, is that it doesn't just polish the statue. It really, really tries to find the man hiding inside of it.
The man inside the armor.
Exactly. Because the man and the statue were very, very different things. And to get us started, to really help you understand the stakes of just how big this figure was, I want to drop a fact on you that it completely blew my mind when I was going through the source material.
I know the one you mean. It's incredible.
It sounds like something from a spy novel, or frankly, one of the movies he might have starred in. But it's historical fact.
It really sets the stage for the era we are dealing with. The paranoia, the global scale of things.
So picture this. It's the early 1950s. The Cold War is freezing over. We are in the depths of the Red Scare. Tensions between the U.S. and the USSR are at a boiling point.
Right. McCarthyism is in full swing. Blacklists. It's a tense time.
And in the Kremlin, Joseph Stalin, the dictator of the Soviet Union, one of the most powerful and feared men on the planet, signs a formal execution order. But it's not for a general. It's not for a president. It's not for a spy. It is for a Hollywood actor.
It sounds absurd, doesn't it? When you first hear that, you think, no way. The leader of a superpower would be concerned with a man who pretends to ride horses for a living.
It sounds completely made up. But the sources, they're clear on this. 2 KGB assassins were actually dispatched to Los Angeles.
Sent to Hollywood.
Their mission was to infiltrate Warner Brothers Studios.
Yeah.
And their target was Marion Morrison, known to the world, of course, as John Wayne.
But if you pause and really analyze that, it starts being absurd and it starts making a terrifying kind of sense.
How so? Unpack that for us.
Well, you have to understand how the Soviets viewed art. To them, cinema wasn't entertainment. It was a tool for the state.
It's propaganda.
It's propaganda. It was about the collective. The hero in a Soviet film is the group, the party, the movement, the individual sacrifices for the whole.
And then you look at John Wayne.
He is the exact opposite. He is the ultimate individual, the rugged individualist.
Right.
The man who walks alone, who solves problems not with a committee, but with a Winchester and his own personal sense of right and wrong.
So to the Kremlin, he wasn't just some actor.
No. To the Soviet Union, John Wayne was the most dangerous symbol of American defiance on the planet. He was more dangerous than a politician because a politician gives speeches. John Wayne gave people a feeling. He represented the idea that one man standing his ground could change the course of history.
Wow. That is such a powerful image. The idea that a silhouette, just the outline of a man in a doorway, could threaten a superpower.
Precisely. Because he didn't just play heroes. In the eyes of the public, and clearly in the eyes of America's enemies, he was the American identity. He was that granite-jawed moral compass.
A guy you could count on.
Yeah. The world was trying to find its footing after World War II, moving into this terrifying new nuclear age. And here was this man who walked with that slow, rhythmic, hip-swinging gait.
The walk. Everyone knows the walk.
The walk. And he spoke with that drawl that sounded like it was carved out of oak.
It's the voice, right?
Yeah.
You hear it and you just feel safe. Like, it's okay, the Duke is here.
You feel safe, and you feel like there are rules. That's the key. When people looked at him, they didn't see a performer using the Stanislavski method. They saw a set of values. Rugged, uncompromising strength.
What?
But, and this is the but that drives our entire deep dive today, there is a mystery here. Because Marion Morrison, the man born in Iowa, and John Wayne, the legend, they were not the same person.
And that's the central tension we're going to explore. The sources use this incredible metaphor. They describe Wayne's persona as a suit of armor, a suit made of leather and denim. And the idea is that he spent his whole life building this armor, polishing it, making it stronger, but eventually, well, it became too heavy to take off.
Became a prisoner of the myth.
Exactly. He was living inside this suit. And while the world saw the invincible Titan, the man inside was struggling. He was struggling with his health, his lungs specifically. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
He was struggling with perceived failures in his personal life. He was struggling with the pressure of having to be the Duke 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
It's a tragedy in the classical sense. You create a character to protect yourself or to succeed, and that character eventually consumes you. So, our mission today is to peel back that grease paint.
Right.
We aren't just going to list his movies. We want to find the human heart beating underneath the buckskin. We want to talk about the cost of being an icon.
So let's go back. Let's go way back. Because before he was the Duke, before he was a target for the KGB, he was just a kid. And not a kid with a tough name either.
No, definitely not. Not by a long shot.
We're dropping into 1907, Winterset, Iowa. A tiny 4-room house. And a baby boy is born named Marion Robert Morrison. Now, I don't want to cast aspersions on the name Marion.
But we have to be realistic about the context of 1907.
In 1907, the sources make a big point of this. Being a tall, gangly boy named Marion in the early 20th century, in a world of Jacks and Bills and Franks, that was a tough hand to be dealt.
It was, and you know, it's formative. Psychology tells us that these early childhood experiences of ridicule or feeling othered can shape your entire defense mechanism.
You build a wall.
You build a wall. The ridicule attached to the name Marion forced him to grow a thick skin very early on. He had to learn to either shrink away and hide, or to stand up and present a facade that couldn't be penetrated.
And we know which path he chose.
We certainly do. But it wasn't just the name, it was the dynamic in that house, and even more, where that house ended up.
Right, because the Iowa chapter is actually pretty short in the grand scheme of his making. The real story, the origin story of the toughness, starts when the family moves.
Yeah, this is a crucial pivot point.
And they don't move to a beach, they don't move to a city with opportunity, they move to the Mojave Desert.
It's almost biblical, isn't it, going into the wasteland? His father, Clyde Morrison, is described as this kind-hearted man, a pharmacist, but a dreamer. And he had weak lungs.
The common problem back then.
Very. And the doctors told him he needed a climate change, or he wouldn't survive. So he packs up the whole family and moves to Palmdale, California to try homesteading.
And today, you might think of California and think sunshine and surfing. But Palmdale, in the early 1910s, this was not the California of the Beach Boys.
No, this was a wasteland, a brutal environment. The sources paint this picture so vividly. There's no electricity, there's no running water.
Nothing.
Just wind and heat and rattlesnakes. This was high desert homesteading at its most unforgiving. And Clyde, the dreamer, he was trying to farm American corn in soil that was described in one book as powdered bone.
Powdered bone.
Oh.
That is such a haunting description.
It is. It implies death. It implies that nothing can grow there. And you have to imagine Marion, this 9-year-old boy, in the middle of all this.
What was his daily life like?
Grinding. Just an absolute grind. He's riding a horse for miles to get to school, often in the dark. He's carrying a rifle because there are coyotes and snakes. He is isolated in a way that modern children simply aren't.
And he's watching his father fail.
That's the heartbreaking part. He adored his father. Clyde was his hero in many ways, but Clyde was not cut out for the desert. He was a good man, but a poor farmer. He was failing.
And his mother.
On the other side, you have his mother, Molly. The sources describe her as hardening. Her disappointment was turning into bitterness. She was a woman who felt she had been dragged to hell. So Marion is trapped.
Trapped between a father who is crumbling and a mother who is becoming cold and distant.
Exactly. And there's a lesson there, right? The expert analysis in our notes points to a specific core takeaway from this time in the desert.
Yeah, and it's a brutal one.
It is. The lesson he learned in the dust of the Mojave was simple and terrifying. Nobody is coming to save you.
Wow.
There is no cavalry. There is no safety net. You stand on your own 2 feet or the sand buries you. That self-reliance, that grit we associate with John Wayne.
It wasn't an act.
It wasn't acting. It was
Yeah.
a survival mechanism forged when he was 9 years old, listening to the wind howl through the cracks in the walls.
Eventually, the desert did win. The farm collapsed. The family was broke. They moved to Glendale, which is a suburb of Los Angeles. Clyde goes back to being a pharmacy clerk.
And the family is poor. I mean, really struggling. This isn't just, we can't afford a new car, poor. This is, where's the next meal coming from, poor.
And this is where the work ethic kicks in a huge way.
It has to. Marion didn't really have a childhood. He had a paper route at 4 a.m. He was delivering groceries for local shops. He shoveled snow in the winter. He swept floors. He was doing anything and everything he could to keep the family afloat.
He was trying to be the provider.
That perhaps he felt his father couldn't fully be. He was taking on this immense responsibility at a very young age.
But Glendale is also where he gets the name. And I love this story because it's so normal. It's so un-Hollywood.
It's completely organic. It has nothing to do with show business.
It involves a dog, an Airedale Terrier.
Named Duke.
Right. And Marion and this dog, Duke, were inseparable. They were always together. And they would walk to the local fire station every day.
And the firemen, they liked the kid, but they couldn't be bothered to remember the name Marion. Or maybe they just thought the name didn't fit the boy.
So what did they do?
Well, because the dog was Big Duke, they just started calling the boy Little Duke.
It's just like that.
Just like that. And you have to think about what that must have felt like for him. After years of being teased for Marion, suddenly he has this name, Duke.
It's strong.
It's strong, it's aristocratic, but tough. It sounds like a man, it sounds like a shield. He loved it. He wore that nickname like a suit of armor before he even found the costumes in a wardrobe department.
It was the first layer of the persona.
Absolutely. Marion was the scared kid in the desert. Duke was the guy who could handle anything.
So little Duke grows up, and he stops being little. By the time he hits high school, he is transformed. He goes from this scrawny desert kid to an absolute powerhouse.
He really blossomed. I mean, the change was dramatic. He was a star football player, an offensive tackle, a big, strong kid.
But he wasn't just a jock. That's the part that I find so fascinating.
No, not at all. And that's a key misconception. He was a champion debater, which is interesting very well. We don't often think of John Wayne as a debater, but he was incredibly articulate and smart. He was the president of the Latin Society. He won the Southern California Shakespeare contest.
Wait, really? John Wayne won a Shakespeare contest.
He did, and that tells us so much.
Yeah.
It tells us that the dumb cowboy stereotype was a construction. It was a choice. This was an intellectual kid who loved language. He was a straight-A student.
And again, this drive.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about being good. It was about something more.
It was about being the opposite of his father's failures. He wanted stability. He wanted respect. He wanted something solid under his feet that wasn't desert sand.
He wanted a guarantee.
Exactly. And he thought he found it. He got a football scholarship to USC, the University of Southern California. This was the golden ticket.
It's a way out.
This was it. He was going to play ball, maybe become a lawyer. He had the path laid out. He was going to leave the dust and the poverty and the name Marion behind forever.
But then, life happens. Or the ocean happens.
The wave. It's incredible how history turns on these split seconds.
Now what happened?
One afternoon, he's body surfing at Newport Beach. He's young, he's strong, he feels invincible. And a massive wave crashes down on him, just a freak accident.
And it injures him.
It tears his shoulder apart, a severe injury. And we have to remember, in the 1920s, sports medicine isn't what it is today. You don't get arthroscopic surgery and 6 weeks of rehab.
No, that's a career ender.
That was it. The damage was permanent regarding his ability to play at that elite level. And because the football career was over,
The scholarship was gone.
the scholarship was gone.
Just like that.
Just like that. The future he had so carefully mapped out, the law degree, the stability, it evaporated in the salt water.
And I think we have to pause and really appreciate the desperation of that moment.
No, absolutely. Total desperation. He didn't turn to acting because he had a passion for the arts. He didn't dream of the stage. He went to the Fox Film Corporation because he needed to eat.
He was laborer.
He was a prop man. He was moving furniture. He was swinging hammers. He was Marion Morrison again, the failed athlete, just looking for a paycheck to survive.
And this is where he meets the man who would change everything. John Ford.
The legendary director.
Now, Ford was known for being, let's say, difficult.
That is a very, very polite way of putting it. Ford was a genius, arguably the greatest director of Westerns in history, but he was also a bully, a psychological manipulator.
He liked to test people.
He liked to test people. He liked to break them down to see what they were made of. So he sees this big kid, this prop guy, Duke Morrison, and he decides to mess with him.
And the story goes that Ford asked him, "Can you really play football?"
Right. It was a direct challenge, and he tells him to get into a three-point stance right there on the set.
So Duke does it.
Duke gets down, hands in the dirt, and what does Ford do? He kicks Duke's arms out from under him.
No way.
Yes. Duke goes face first into the dirt,
Yeah.
humiliated in front of everybody.
Now, most people would get up and yell, or they'd cry, or they'd walk away.
But Duke didn't. He got up, he dusted himself off,
Mhm.
and he just looked Ford right in the eye. No complaint, no fear, just this quiet, steely resolve.
And that was it. That was the moment.
That was the spark. Ford saw something in that reaction that you cannot teach in acting school. He saw backbone. He saw a man who could take a hit and keep standing. He saw the kid from the Mojave.
But even with Ford's interest, it wasn't an overnight success story, was it?
Yes.
I think there's a misconception that he was discovered and suddenly he was the John Wayne we know.
Oh, not at all. Not even close. In
Yeah.
fact, his first big break was a complete and utter disaster.
This is The Big Trail, 1930.
Right. Another director, Raoul Walsh, he spots Duke moving a chest of drawers and thinks, that's the guy. He has the look.
So they cast him as the lead.
They cast him as the lead in this huge, epic Western. And this is where the name changes officially. He didn't even choose John Wayne.
He didn't?
No. Just saw it on the contract one day. The studio needed a new name. Marion Morrison sounded too soft. They threw around a few ideas and someone came up with John Wayne. It sounded American. Solid.
So he's John Wayne now. He's the lead in a massive epic. He's made it, and the movie flops.
It bombed disastrously. It was shot in this experimental widescreen format that most theaters couldn't even project. It was a financial catastrophe.
And in Hollywood, you often only get one shot.
You really do. The industry wrote him off immediately. They said, okay, he's a lucky amateur, he's stiff, it didn't work. And they banished him
To Poverty Row.
to Poverty Row for 9 long, dusty years.
9 years. That is a lifetime in an actor's career. And I think we really need to dwell on this period because this is where the deep dive really earns its name. Most people skip this part.
They do. They go from USC to Stagecoach. But these 9 years were the crucible. This is where he was made.
So what was Poverty Row?
Poverty Row Studios weren't MGM or Warner Brothers. These were outfits like Monogram Pictures, Republic Pictures. They made movies on a shoestring budget.
Cheap movies.
Beyond cheap. We were talking about filming a whole feature-length movie in 3 or 4 days.
3 days. That's insane.
It is. They were churning them out like sausages. The scripts were terrible. The costumes were cheap. And Wayne, well, he was humiliated regularly.
You're talking about the Singing Sandy character.
Oh, the Singing Sandy era. This is something the sources really highlight because it shows his desperation. The studios wanted to capitalize on the singing cowboy craze like Gene Autry.
But John Wayne couldn't sing a note.
He had a terrible singing voice. He couldn't carry a tune in a bucket, so they dubbed him. But it was bad dubbing. You'd see him on screen, strumming a guitar, opening his mouth.
And this other voice comes out.
This high crooning voice that clearly wasn't his. He hated it. He felt like a fool. He was so embarrassed by it, he threatened to quit multiple times.
He didn't quit. And that's the key, isn't it?
He didn't quit, and instead, he did something brilliant. He treated Poverty Row like a laboratory. He used those 9 years to study.
What was he studying?
The real thing. He watched the real cowboys on the sets, the wranglers, the stuntmen, the rodeo guys who were looking for a day's work. He watched a guy named Yakima Canutt especially.
Yakima Canutt is a legend in his own right. The godfather of stunt work.
He really is. And Wayne watched how Canutt walked. He watched how he sat in a saddle. He realized that on film you have to move differently. You have to be economical.
So he was building the character.
He was crafting the persona of John Wayne, piece by piece, gesture by gesture, like a carpenter building a house. He learned to lower his voice. He learned to speak with his eyes rather than his words. He was developing that physical vocabulary.
So he wasn't just acting tough, he was literally constructing a physical language of toughness.
Exactly. The walk, that famous rolling walk that was constructed, the way he paused before speaking that was constructed. He realized that the camera loves stillness. While other actors were flailing around, he learned to just be, to hold the frame with his presence.
So by the time 1939 rolls around, he's ready. He's not the green kid from The Big Trail anymore. He's a veteran of, what, 80 bad movies?
Something like that. He's done his time. He's learned his craft in the hardest way possible, and John Ford comes calling again.
For Stagecoach.
For Stagecoach, the movie that would change everything.
But Ford didn't make it easy on him, did he? Even then.
No. Ford was brutal on that set. He knew Wayne had picked up some bad habits on Poverty Row, some cheap acting tricks,
Wow.
and he was determined to beat them out of him. He teased Wayne relentlessly. He humiliated him in front of the cast and crew, calling him a big oaf, criticizing his walking, telling him he was acting like a fairy. He pushed him to the absolute breaking point day after day.
Why? That just sounds abusive.
By modern standards, it absolutely was. But Ford's logic, twisted as it might have been, was that he needed to strip away the artifice. He needed to get Wayne angry. He needed that raw, coiled intensity that he saw when he kicked him in the dirt years earlier, and he got it.
And then we get the shot.
The shot, the introduction.
If you haven't seen Stagecoach, you have to picture this. The camera zooms in fast. It's a blurry rushing motion, and it lands on the face of the Ringo Kid.
He's standing there, Winchester rifle in one hand.
And he spins it.
He gives it that little flip, that one-handed spin, that casual, deadly grace. He looks at the camera, and in that split second, the sources say the air in the theater changed.
He'd arrived.
John Wayne had arrived. He wasn't just an actor anymore. He was the frontier. He was the embodiment of everything the Western genre promised.
And from there, it's just a rocket ship. Through the 40s and 50s, he becomes the anchor for a whole country. Red River, The Searchers.
He becomes the man who holds the gate. He becomes the collective father figure for the nation. And you have to remember the context. The Great Depression, World War II, the Cold War. America was rising to power, but it was a scary, uncertain time.
And Wayne was certain.
He represented certainty. He represented the idea that if you are strong enough and tough enough and you have a code, you will prevail. He was the monument.
But monuments cast shadows. And the bigger the monument, the darker the shadow.
That's right. And his were very dark.
We're moving into chapter 4 of our outline here. And this is where the story gets really complicated. Because while John Wayne was playing the ultimate soldier on screen, the reality of his war record, or lack thereof, was a massive source of pain for him.
It was the wound that never healed. You have to remember, when World War II broke out, Hollywood went to war. For real.
Right. His peers were all signed.
All of them. You have Jimmy Stewart, a huge star, who becomes a pilot and is flying actual combat missions over Germany, leading bombing raids.
Henry Fonda is on a destroyer in the Pacific. Clark Gable is a gunner on a bomber.
And John Wayne stays in Hollywood.
And the big question is, why? He seems like the kind of guy who would be first in line at the recruiting office.
It's complex, and the sources differ on the exact mix of reasons. Part of it was that he had a family to support 4 kids. He was 34 when the war started, which gave him a deferment.
And the studio.
The studio, Republic Pictures, fought tooth and nail to keep him. He was their biggest asset, their only major star. They filed deferments on his behalf.
But did he try to override them? Did he want to go?
He wrote letters. He expressed interest in joining the OSS, which was the precursor to the CIA under director John Ford. But he never actually signed the papers. He never took that final step. And in the end, the why mattered less than the result. He stayed behind.
And he played soldiers.
Constantly. He played the hero, Sands of Iwo Jima, Flying Tigers. They were expendable. He was winning the war on the silver screen while other men were dying in the mud. And he knew the hypocrisy of it.
He must have.
He felt it deeply. The sources call it a psychic wound. He would get letters from soldiers in the trenches saying, "Wish you were here, Duke," and it would tear him apart.
And John Ford, being Ford, didn't let him forget it.
Never. Ford had gone to war. He was at the Battle of Midway, filming the actual battle, and was wounded. So when they worked together afterwards, Ford was merciless. He'd call him a draft dodger on set.
In front of everyone.
In front of the whole crew. Can you imagine? You're the biggest star in the world, you're playing a Marine sergeant, and your director is humiliating you about not serving.
The expert insight here suggests that this guilt actually drove his politics later in life.
It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? The aggressive patriotism, the hawkish stance on Vietnam, the fierce anti-communism. It was all, in a way, an overcompensation.
He was trying to prove something.
He was trying to earn a badge he felt he missed in 1942. He was trying to prove he was a patriot, even if he didn't wear the uniform when it counted most. He became super American because he felt he had failed a basic test of American manhood.
And then there was the private life. The man behind the door. We see the discipline and control on screen, but at home.
Chaos. Absolute chaos. He was married 3 times and he had a type. strong-willed, fiery Latino women, Josephine Sins, Esperanza Bauer, Pilar Palet, and the relationships were incredibly volatile.
Volatile how?
We're talking screening matches, broken plates, accusations of affairs on both sides, police being called to the house. It was tumultuous. The man who was the pillar of strength on screen had a home life that was constantly falling apart.
And the drinking.
The drinking was legendary, and not in a fun, party way. He drank high-proof scotch, and he would drink until sunrise. The sources describe this deep, profound loneliness. He spent so much time on location, in hotel rooms, isolated.
Married to the legend.
He was a man married to his legend first, and he struggled to find peace at home because perhaps he didn't know how to be Marion Morrison anymore. He only knew how to be the Duke, and the Duke doesn't work in a marriage.
There's one story in this section that really feels like a Greek tragedy. It's about the movie The Conqueror.
Oh, this is just heartbreaking. 1954.
First of all, the casting. John Wayne as Genghis Khan.
It is widely and correctly considered one of the worst casting decisions in the history of cinema. It's almost laughable seeing him in that makeup and costume, but the production, that wasn't laughable at all. It was deadly.
They filmed in Utah, near a town called St. George.
Which just happened to be downwind from the Nevada nuclear testing site.
The government was testing atomic bombs nearby.
That's right, above-ground tests. This was the era of mushroom clouds in the desert, and the wind was blowing that radioactive fallout right onto the set.
And they had no idea.
The actors, the crew, they were working in this fine red dust that was radioactive. There are photos of Wayne holding a Geiger counter on set, and it's clicking away, and everyone is kind of joking about it. They didn't understand the danger.
And they didn't just film there. This is the craziest part. They shipped the dirt back to Hollywood.
They did. For reshoots and interior scenes to match the location, they shipped tons of this radioactive red soil to Los Angeles. Wayne was literally rolling around in it for fight scenes.
And the toll. It's staggering.
It's unbelievable. Of the 220 people on that cast and crew, 91 of them developed cancer. 91. The director died of cancer. Susan Hayward, his co-star, died of cancer. Pedro Armendariz, another actor, developed terminal cancer and took his own life. And Wayne.
Wayne was one of them.
Wayne was one of them. He was breathing in his own end without knowing it. He was playing a conqueror and literally inhaling the poison that would eventually kill him. It's a horrific irony. The government he defended so staunchly had essentially poisoned him.
Moving into the 60s and 70s, the world starts to change around him. The culture starts to shift. And suddenly, the rugged individualist isn't the hero anymore for a lot of people.
No, you have the counterculture revolution, the late 60s, the Vietnam War. The youth are questioning authority, questioning the war, questioning the American way.
And John Wayne stood for all of that.
He stood for everything they were rejecting. He made The Green Berets in 1968, which was a passionately pro-Vietnam War movie at the exact time the country was turning against it.
He became a relic.
Too many, he became a controversial relic.
Yeah.
He was seen by the younger generation as a dinosaur, a warmonger, and he didn't help his case with that infamous 1971 Playboy interview.
What did he say?
He expressed views on race and history that were shocking to many even then, and certainly feel like they belong to a brutal, bygone era now. He was digging his heels in, he refused to change with the times. He was going to remain the Duke, even if the world didn't want a Duke anymore.
And physically he was fighting a battle too, the Big C as he called it.
Cancer. In 1964, he was diagnosed with lung cancer, and he had a lung removed. Think about that. The man known for his barrel chest, for his booming voice, they sawed out a lung and several ribs.
But he wouldn't let anyone see the weakness. He refused.
No. There's this incredible, almost unbelievable anecdote. Shortly after the surgery, he called the press. He wanted to show the world he was still strong.
What did he do?
This man, missing a lung, ribs sawed out, stitches barely healed, stands there in front of the cameras, and he starts punching a heavy bag. Hard.
Wham, wham, just like in the movies.
Exactly. He's smiling, he's joking. But inside, he must have been in agony. He was gasping for air between takes. His body was screaming at him.
Why do that? Why not just rest? Why not say, I'm human, I'm sick?
Because he was living a lie to protect a truth. The truth in his mind was that the world needed him to be John Wayne. He felt this profound responsibility to the audience. He believed that if John Wayne looked weak, America looked weak.
Wow.
He was willing to kill Marion Morrison, to sacrifice his own body and comfort to keep the Duke alive for us.
Which leads us to the final act, the long goodbye. And this is where art and life just completely merge. You almost can't tell the difference anymore.
The Shootist, 1976.
This final film,
Yeah.
and the plot is Well, it's his life, isn't it?
It is. It's almost a documentary. He plays an aging gunfighter, J.B. Brooks, and J.B. Brooks is dying of cancer. He's come to town looking for a way to go out with dignity in a world that has moved on from gunfighters.
He's not acting at that point.
It's barely acting. Wayne was hollowed out by the disease by then. He was short of breath. His face was lined with that geography of 1,000 battles. He kept an oxygen tank nearby on set, hidden just out of frame,
So he would do a take.
and then collapse into a chair and gasp for oxygen and then get up and do it again.
There is a scene in that movie with a young Ron Howard. And Wayne says a line that wasn't just dialogue. I have it here. He says, "I won't be wronged. I won't be insulted. I won't be laid a hand on. I don't do these things to other people, and I require the same from them."
That is the creed. That wasn't just a line in a script for him. That was the philosophy of his life. It's the definition of the code he tried to live by. It's about reciprocity, respect, but also absolute boundaries. If you cross the line, there are consequences.
And then the final bow. April 1979, the Academy Awards.
This is one of the most emotional moments in Hollywood history. He had been in the hospital, he was essentially on his deathbed, but he insisted on making one last appearance.
He steps out to present the Best Picture Award.
And he is.
Yeah.
He's a skeleton. The cancer had eaten him alive. He was incredibly thin, and the sources tell us he was wearing a secret wetsuit under his tuxedo
The wetsuit, why?
to give his body some bulk. He was so frail that the tuxedo would have hung on him like a shroud. He wanted to look like the Duke one last time.
That's heartbreaking.
That is heartbreaking dedication to the image, right to the very end.
But when he walked out, the ovation.
The entire room stood up. And these were people who had fought with him politically for years. These were the liberals, the counterculture types, the people who call him a dinosaur. But in that moment, none of it mattered.
Wow.
They stood up. Because they weren't seeing a politician, they were seeing history. They were seeing the man who had been their father, their brother, their protector on screen for 50 years. They saw their own youth standing there.
And he makes that joke. Oscar and I both come on the scene in 1928. We were both a little weathered, but we planned to be around a whole lot longer.
And he knew it wasn't true. He died 2 months later.
So we're at the end of the trail here. And the big question is, why? Why do we still talk about him? Why does this specific deep dive matter to someone listening today, maybe driving to work or sitting on their porch?
I think it's because John Wayne represents a clarity that we feel we have lost. We live in a world that is incredibly complex. It's full of gray areas, moral mazes, nuance, and that's reality. Reality is messy.
But the Duke wasn't messy.
The Duke was simple. He stood for a simple code: do the right thing, protect the weak, keep your word, stand your ground.
So even if it's a myth we still need.
Exactly. It's an aspirational myth. He gave us a blueprint for a certain kind of integrity. And the tragedy of his life, the sadness of Marion Morrison, the pain, the guilt, the loneliness, that was the price he paid to give us that blueprint. He carried the heavy armor so we could feel safe behind it.
He had a phrase he wanted on his headstone,
Feo, fuerte y formal.
which means
Ugly, strong, and dignified.
not handsome, not famous, ugly, strong, and dignified.
He didn't care about being pretty. He wanted to be solid. He wanted to be a man of substance, of character. That was what mattered to him.
He's buried in Newport Beach. And for 20 years, the grave was unmarked. Just a grassy hill overlooking the ocean. The same ocean where he lost his football scholarship.
The place where he lost one destiny and found another. And when he passed, the expert commentary in our notes says that the frontier finally truly closed. The Western died with him in many ways. But his monument isn't that grave. It's not a statue.
What is it?
It's every kid who ever watched him and decided to stand a little taller. It's every person who decided not to run away when things got hard. That is the legacy of the man inside the armor.
That is a beautiful place to leave it. A story of dust and grit and a very, very heavy suit of armor. But a story that still matters.
Absolutely.
And for those of you listening, if this trip back to the Golden Age sparked something for you, stay tuned, because we are not done with the legends yet.
No, we're just getting started.
Next time, we are trading the high desert for the neon lights. We are going to look at another icon who was consumed by the spotlight. A woman who was the world's greatest obsession and perhaps its greatest tragedy.
Oh, yeah.
We are talking about the light and the darkness of Marilyn Monroe.
I can't wait for that one. That's another deep, complicated story.
Until then, take care of yourselves. And thanks for diving deep with us.
See you down the trail.